I made a video talking about predators and pedophiles a few days ago, and I brought up CallMeCarson in a segment of the video I definitely shouldn't have and stirred up a lot of arguments. For that, I apologize. There is no evidence that CallMeCarson is a pedophile, but I do strongly believe that he was a sexual predator. This is an extremely complex situation. So complex, I'm making it into its own video. In this video, I'm going to talk about sexual predation and why CallMeCarson fits, or used to fit, into this category. Sexual predation can be defined as the deliberate exploitation or manipulation of another person's vulnerability for the predator's own benefit. In the context of YouTube and content creation, having an audience can give a creator access to people who admire them and may be significantly younger or more vulnerable than they are. When that relationship is deliberately exploited for sexual purposes, I would consider that sexual predation. Back in January of 2021, CallMeCarson was exposed for exchanging inappropriate messages with fans from 2018 to 2019. One of these instances contained messages between Carson and a fan. Carson was 19 and the fan was 17. The other instance contained nude exchanges between Carson and another fan. Carson was 20, the fan was 17. Another big YouTuber who was friends with him at the time, Jay Schlatt, made a video called Carson on his The Weekly Slap channel, which delves into Carson's behavior with his fans, his friends, and himself. I highly recommend you watch that video before continuing watching this one, because it contains some content I'm going to cover here. You might be asking what makes a fan vulnerable to a content creator. Aren't they the one reaching out in the first place? How does it make them vulnerable? The answer lies in the nature of the relationship itself. Fans can develop strong parasocial attachments to creators. In short, they feel emotionally attached to someone who doesn't know them personally. This creates an imbalance where the fan may place significant emotional value on the creator's attention. There's also inherently a status difference. The creator has a platform, an audience, social status, and in Carson's case, more life experience. This fan is one among thousands who admire that creator. Carson engaged in sexual interactions with these fans despite knowing they were minors. A lot of you might downplay the situation because the age gap was, 2 to 3 years between them? But that doesn't change this situation for the better. As a content creator with a substantial audience, Carson should have understood that some of the people interacting with him would have a strong admiration or emotional attachment toward him. When a content creator has an audience of that size, there comes a responsibility to maintain appropriate boundaries with the people who make up that audience. Despite this, my argument has never been that a 19-year-old being interested in a 17-year-old automatically makes someone a predator. The circumstances surrounding that relationship matter. If the only thing you take away from this section is 19 and 17, then you've missed my whole argument. Carson wasn't simply a 19-year-old meeting a 17-year-old at a school or at a party. He was a content creator, interacting with people who were fans of his. These were people who admired him, followed his content, and wanted his attention. And according to accounts surrounding the situation, the relationship became sexual. The question isn't just how old these people were. It's whether Carson used an existing relationship of admiration and influence to obtain something for his own sexual benefit. This brings us back to the definition of sexual predation I gave earlier. So let's apply that definition to this situation. You have an adult content creator, minors who were part of his audience, an existing relationship based on admiration and access, sexual interactions, and Carson personally benefiting from those interactions. That is why I believe the definition applies here. The fact that a fan may have initiated contact doesn't automatically eliminate the possibility of exploitation. A person can willingly enter an interaction while someone else still takes advantage of the circumstances surrounding that interaction. Consent and exploitation aren't mutually exclusive. And I want to be fair about this because I don't want to misrepresent what happened just to make my argument stronger. I'm not going to claim that Carson sought these people out from the beginning or that his original intention in creating content was to find minors to engage with sexually. I don't have evidence to establish that. What I can examine is the behavior that actually occurred. He's an adult content creator. They were minors who were part of his audience. These interactions became sexual, and he benefited from those interactions sexually. That's why I consider the behavior predatory. And this is also why I don't think comparing Carson to the most extreme examples of sexual predation is a meaningful defense. Someone doesn't have to be the worst predator imaginable before their behavior can be described as predatory. There are levels to these situations. The fact that one person committed something significantly worse doesn't make another person's behavior acceptable. So no, I'm not saying CallMeCarson is a pedophile. I'm not saying every relationship between a creator and a fan is inherently predatory. And I'm not saying that a 2-year age gap automatically makes someone a predator. I'm saying that, based on the circumstances of this particular case, I believe Carson exploited a creator-fan dynamic involving minors for his own sexual gratification. And that's why I consider what happened to be sexual predation.